In this episode, Golden and I discuss the latest DC animated movie, Superman Red Sun. Full speed ahead. Welcome to the Omega Beam number 72. I'm your host, Oren Merton. So I hope you're all healthy and well and staying at home. Luckily, there's a lot of great things out there to watch, such as, if you didn't already know, that Warner Brothers Animation has been releasing multiple DC animated movies every year. They've been doing it for a few years now. And they even have their own continuity called the DC Animated Universe. This movie, however, is not part of the DCAU. It is an Elseworlds movie. In other words, sort of a what-if type of story. And it's made from one of my very favorite comics called Superman Red Sun. So the basic premise is what happens if instead of landing in Kansas, the little Kryptonian ship had landed in Russia. All right, so there's some minor spoilers here, but nothing too bad. And let's get to it. I am here with Golden to talk about the DC Animated Universe film Superman Red Sun, which for those of you who don't know, is based on the Mark Millar comic, Elseworlds comic, Superman Red Sun. And it starts off with a very, very basic but interesting premise. What if baby Kal-El's rocket landed in the Soviet Union instead of Smallville, Kansas? And the entire story goes from there. So what did you think?
So I didn't know a whole bunch of the history because I'm not as well versed in the comics as you are. I know that you had said it's one of your favorite.
It is.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very entertaining. Mm-hmm. I feel like you are still get the heart of who Superman is.
Yeah, and that is probably the key point that was retained from the comic. The comic and the movie are two different stories. They start from the same premise of what if Superman landed in the Soviet Union, and there's a very similar progression in the sense that in both, Superman becomes an arm of the state, and Batman is in it, but in a more sort of opposition to Superman. Wonder Woman is in it as kind of a diplomat. So those elements are all the same. But the story itself is its own story. But I think it worked, and I think it was a really good story because I think that basic premise of the Elseworlds comic is really rich for different things you could do with it. It was done well.
I'm playing around on IMDb to see who did what, and it's interesting because the man who voiced Batman, Roger Craig Smith, mm-hmm. is also Batman in Arkham Origins.
Oh, interesting. So. I didn't know that. I certainly knew the guy who played Superman, Jason Isaacs, who I think in real life is Welsh, but he played an American-sounding space captain in Star Trek Discovery, and he plays a Russian-sounding Superman. So
he gets around. He's part of the Harry Potter universe because he's Lucius Malfoy. He's been in Peter Pan. He's in The Patriot. He's very well versed and he definitely does a lot of different things
and does it very well. I mean, I think he does a great job of emoting with the character. I believe Amy Acker has played Lois Lane a number of times, and I think Vanessa Marshall has also played Wonder Woman a number of times. So I think they're kind of maybe a regular part of the DC animated movies.
It was very interesting to see Lois Lane is still drawn to powerful men that want to change the world.
And she herself is quite the powerful woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
She always has been. Because we were watching this thinking, oh, wow, Lois Lane, she can really take care of herself. But
right.
She's always been able to. She's always put herself into situations that she can get her. Well, she may not be able to get herself out of it, but she always thinks that she can.
Right. Exactly.
And I did really like to see the relationship that's built between Lois Lane and Lex Luthor in a different light.
Right.
And there will be some spoilers in order for me to get through what I want to say. But we're always seeing Lex Luthor as this power hungry, wants to rule the world in this when he actually gets what he wants. And it's not necessarily to rule the world. He's able to step away from it and say, okay, I've done that. Now I can just go off and do something else.
Yeah, it is definitely a different look at Lex. If I recall correctly, and I may be wrong, in the Red Sun comic, the relationship between Lois and Superman, though they're not close, they're on different continents, it is more tied together than it is in this one. But,
I don't
that's
think
just
it
a
needed
choice
to
they
be,
made.
though, because she was still influential in his life.
Yeah,
But he had his influences early on that he gets to fall back on.
yeah. They definitely changed Wonder Woman significantly between the comic, whatever it was, 18 years ago, and this one. She was more of Superman's, the woman on his arm in the original, and here she definitely was not. So, they've, like I said, a lot of changes, but I think they were good. I think they made for a good story. From a technical point of view, I thought the animation was really good. I thought the animation models were really good. I thought the music was really good. It was obviously they tried to play on sort of Russian folk melodies that are known in the West to kind of drive you to the feel that this is taking place in Russia, and I think it worked really well. I think they did a good job with black and white and color, so that when you were looking at scenes that were taking place, because the story starts in about 1946, and they did a good job with the color palette of either through black and white television sets or just a different color palette in different parts of the world to really separate modern from the more vintage technology of communications and the different eras of scenes and stuff like that. I think it was really well put together and really well done.
No, it was a very strong cast.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the DC animated movies are really, really good, but they're not all they're not all great. I mean, there've been some misses in there, and I think this is definitely one of the hits of the bunch, I would say. And I would definitely recommend it. And part of the reason I would recommend it, beyond all the technical stuff and beyond the great cast, is, like I said, Elseworld stories can sometimes be a ton of fun. Just like imagining, well, what if Superman would have landed in the Soviet Union? And that's the whole point of Elseworlds. A while ago they did Batman by Gaslight, I think it was called, which was Batman in the days of Jack the Ripper. And I think a lot of these experiments, are fun to see what happens if you put these characters in different environments. Also, should probably mention that if you just rent it or if you just watch the movie, you'll just see the movie. But if you buy it, it comes with a short. So for a long time, in the early days, all the DC animated movies came with shorts of like 13 to 16 minutes. But then they stopped. And now they're doing it again. So this time the short was about the Phantom Stranger, who was a really old, like 50s era DC Comics hero. And it's a fun little short. It's also got a pretty famous voice cast with Peter Sefrolovich. I don't remember how you pronounce his name. But he's been in a ton of stuff. He's a British comedian.
Serafinovich.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably better than my attempt. But he's a British comedian. He's been in a ton of stuff. You may have seen him in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was one of the Nova pilots. If you watched The Tick on Amazon Prime, he played The Tick. And he plays the Phantom Stranger in this one. Michael Rosenbaum, who's been all over the DC universe. He was Lex Luthor in Smallville. He was the Flash in Justice League cartoons. He plays the bad guy in this one. There's a group of hippies. It takes place like in the 60s. And it's again, it's a little bit off center, not what you were expecting from a DC Comics short, but it was good. It was well done. So if you do buy this, you will get that too, and it's definitely
It is a fun little short.
Yeah, 15 minutes of fun. So
I enjoyed it a lot, actually.
Yeah, it was really good, and I think it adds value to the product as a whole, as well as being a fun watch. Yeah, I would definitely recommend this. It's a good movie. It's a good short. It's a nice package. And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/72. If you liked this episode, please leave a review in the Apple Podcasts app or wherever you listen to podcasts. Those reviews help other people find this podcast. If you've got any comments or suggestions, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.